Need one more to hit the magic figure of 15 that I said we'd probably make. So what do you think? We try and keep this short, so I think we'll start. What do you think, Garrett?
Yeah, I think, well, I know that we scheduled, a few minutes to kind of get started, and I know that
Yeah,
there's some people that showed up a little bit later last time. So,
yeah, I will.
um,
I'll start my introduction. If anybody misses that, then it won't be too desperate. So, first of
John,
all,
do you mind giving me one moment? I'm going to mute everybody, and then I'll unmute you just so then if anybody jumps on and they've got some background noise, it doesn't interrupt.
Okay, great.
One moment. Oops. All right, John, you are unmuted.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to say welcome to you, those of you on the West Coast and the East Coast and anywhere in between. Welcome to the Delta Mu Delta short seminar on mentoring. The speaker this morning is Garrett Mintz, and Garrett is the CEO and founder of Ambition in Motion, which is a company that he started, which attempts to match and has done a lot of good work matching people that would like to do some mentoring with people that like to receive some mentors and mentees. Is also a free service offered by Delta Mu Delta to its membership. And so we want to make our faculty advisors more aware of this program. We think it's a great program. We had hundreds of our members on it last year. It's a really great benefit. And, we think right now with everything that's going on with COVID and job losses, that this is a way forward for Delta Mu Delta to help its membership. You will also perhaps receive another email from Mark Kavalvik, who's also going to run some online Zoom sessions on running virtual inductions. He's started doing this with several chapters, and we know that there's a backlog of people that whose chapters were shut down in March that didn't get a chance to do their induction last year, and we're hoping that you can still catch up with that. You can still register these people as allow them to register as members, and that's one of the things that we've had on one of the sessions he ran. We had over 100 people on that. So, having said all that, can I hand over to Kevin, the current president of Delta Mu Delta? Dr. Kevin McCarthy's online this morning, and he'd probably like to say a few words, and then we'll hand on to Garrett to give the presentation. There will be a time for Q&A at the end. Kevin.
Thanks very much, John. Good morning, all of you. Some of you from the West Coast, a little earlier than here in Central Time. I am really thrilled to see so many faculty advisors. Some of you I've built connections with, relationships with over the past year in particular, and I really look forward to building those on into the future as well. Turns out that connecting like this with Zoom has some blessings for us, and we should embrace those. And so thanks so much for joining us. As I said, some of you I've known, like Janice, I've known for decades, John, almost as many, and others I've just getting to know in very recent time. I think this is a great opportunity for us. And I finally just want to thank you in your role as a faculty advisor for all that you do for Delta Mu Delta, and particularly for recognizing your students. John, would you like to go on with Garrett?
Yeah, Garrett, would you like to start the presentation? We're up to 18 online now, so we're right between that 15 and 20 predicted. So.
That's awesome. Good morning, everybody. How are you all? I guess you all can't respond, so a wave is perfect because we are all muted. But good morning, everybody. My name is Garrett Mintz. And yes, as John had introduced me, I am the founder of Ambition in Motion. We're here to talk about mentorship. I'm going to describe to you all 3 keys to building successful mentoring relationships with your students, with other faculty, with other people you know. Because ultimately, during this time period we're in right now with COVID, with everything going on, especially with all the uncertainty, just knowing how to help people and help provide the best guidance and advice to the people you interact with can be so critical to building strong bonds between people and helping them overcome the things that they're going through, and potentially helping you and empowering you to be in a position to empower them to live the lives that they want to live. So we're going to cover some key components to building successful mentoring relationships. But before we jump into that, I'm going to share with you all my background. One of the keys I'm going to share with you eventually is the power of vulnerability. And I'm going to be vulnerable with you all right now and just share with you a little bit of background on me, on how I got into this work in the first place. So I started Ambition in Motion, and I'm passionate about mentoring relationships because I needed mentors in my life. And when I say I needed mentors in my life, I'll be very clear. From age 15 to age 19, I was a drug dealer. And at the end of my freshman year at Indiana University, I got arrested in an undercover operation by the Indiana University Police Department. And I received 5 felony distribution charges, and I was expelled from school. I was looking at prison time, and I had no idea what my next step in life would be. I was in a very, very difficult position. And I didn't know what I would do. But I got a chance. I got an opportunity. I was able to enroll in a program in St. George, Utah called At the Crossroads, which is for young men and women who are literally at the crossroads in their life, trying to get their lives on track. And that's when I got exposed to mentors, both personally and professionally. About a month and a half after moving to Utah, I flew back to Indiana to let my family know my life's getting on track. And on that flight, I'm sitting next to a guy. Well, it turns out he is the director of ground equipment for SkyWest Airlines. And by the time the plane lands, he offers me an internship doing financial analysis on the spot. It was insane. I was in the middle of reading the book, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People at the time. And one of the big things Dale talks about is this idea that people love to talk about themselves. And I took it to heart. And I honestly, I don't even really remember saying all that much in the conversation. But the fact that I was willing to take the time to listen, I think was what impressed him the most. And he just gave me a chance. I remember my first day on the internship. HR does the background check, the fingerprint scans to like do your background check. And I remember the report came back in, and HR goes up to Troy and they say, "Troy, this guy might go to prison in the next 6 months. What are you thinking?" And he said something that was really profound to me. And it becomes more profound as I get older. He said, in order for our company to truly be diverse, we need to hire people that don't look like us, that don't come from the same background as us, and don't think like us. And this kid represents that. And I thought it was unbelievable, because they could have easily said, bye, like a corporate bylaw says we can't hire people that are looking at potentially prison time. But they gave me a chance, and I was extremely lucky to have gotten that opportunity. But unfortunately, these other young men and women I'm in this program with, they weren't so lucky. They were being systematically denied from opportunities because they had to check a box that said I've been convicted of a crime. So I went to these business owners in St. George and I said, hey, don't give this young man, this young woman a job, but be a mentor to him or her. There's just like light bulbs. Everybody said yes. And that's where I became passionate about this. I realized, for me, I have this strong feeling of being needed. As a drug dealer, I got that because I could go to parties and be around people and friends and think I was cool. But I got that feeling of being needed by facilitating mentoring relationships. And that's something that I became really passionate about, and something that really, I guess, inspires me. And so I ended up doing that for a year in Utah. The court system ended up seeing that work that I was doing, and I got really lucky. They ended up dropping my felonies to a misdemeanor conviction. And Indiana University ended up re-enrolling me. The Kelley School of Business accepted me. I got really lucky. I got a second chance. And that's when I started Ambition in Motion. And the idea behind it was, how can we help connect students with alumni, as well as alumni with other alumni, for mentoring relationships, so then we can help them get to a level where their expectations meet reality. When they're at their work, they're feeling fulfilled. And when they come home, they feel excited about coming in for the next day. And that's what Ambition in Motion is all about. And so that's expanded to working with, obviously, Delta Mu Delta, other universities, companies, executives. Really, my focus is on the study of why people get along with each other for mentoring relationships. And here's I guess, really the start of, I guess, our presentation. I'll jump right in. So I'll just share my screen real quick. Oops, I guess nothing's showing up right now. 1 second. But anyways, I appreciate you allowing me to be vulnerable with you all, because it helps when you can share those things that have happened in your life and be vulnerable with people. So I'm going to just pull this up and just share my screen generically. All right, so can you all see my screen?
Yes.
So this is about keys to successful mentoring, and here are some observations that I've learned from facilitating thousands of mentoring relationships between students, between alumni, between professionals, between executives. One of the biggest first keys that I've observed is that people aren't looking for answers, they're looking for questions. And what do I mean by that? I mean that people are not necessarily interested in having you answer all of their questions for them. They're interested in having you kind of help them be a part of the solution. So one of our go-to sayings is that you should never should on anyone in a mentoring relationship. And by that, I just mean saying things like, if I were you, I would do X, Y, Z. And that isn't helpful, because it creates a hierarchy that you are above them and that you can see clearly when you are not facing the same circumstances that the other person is facing. And so instead, what we suggest is by coming up with questions. So people know what they are and what they aren't willing to do to accomplish a goal. Your advice could be incredible, but if the person receiving it isn't comfortable with the notion that you're providing, they are immediately going to close off. So by asking questions, saying something like, have you considered XYZ outcome? You empower the person to think that the idea is their own idea, and it removes the ego component of the advice and allows them to maintain the dignity that they've accomplished the outcome on their own. So essentially, when it comes to mentorship and when it comes to giving advice to people, people want you to ask them questions. They want to feel like it's their own. There's this notion that it's called the IKEA effect, and the IKEA effect states that when you are part of building something on your own, you're much more likely to feel like you're much more likely to invest in that outcome. Whereas if it feels like it was your idea that you gave to me, I feel less passionate about actually accomplishing it. So by asking questions, we're able to empower the people that we're working with to ultimately feel like it's their own ideas that they're coming up with, and they're much more likely to implement that suggestion and that advice because you asked them the question. So the next piece of advice, the next tip that we've learned is that vulnerability is the key to building a deep bond. And so when I say that, all I mean is people love vulnerability. It's so critical to building a strong bond with somebody. I was vulnerable with you all because of how powerful vulnerability is. I would imagine that you all feel a whole lot more connected to me and who I am now that I've shared with you my background on where I came from and how I got to where I'm at today. And you can't build trust without vulnerability. And it's up to you to be vulnerable first, especially as the leader, as the faculty advisor, as the person who the student or this person is looking up to. If you can be vulnerable first, they are much more likely to reciprocate. If you want to build a deeper bond, always be willing to be vulnerable first. Once you do and build that circle of trust, you are much more likely to have an in-depth insight into what is going on with somebody, and your wisdom is much more likely to stick with the other person because they are willing, because they will respect you more. Essentially what I'm saying is that your accolades, your PhDs, all the things that I know that we've been working towards, they don't necessarily build trust with somebody, but are showing our past mistakes, showing the times that we've fallen, showing the times that we've stumbled. That actually builds the credibility with other people because it makes them feel like, wow, this person makes a mistake too. I can feel connected to that person. It's interesting how that works and how people really connect when you're vulnerable with them. And then the last key is understanding the why is critical. And by understanding the why, all I'm saying is that people are motivated by different things. So some people are job motivated, some people are career motivated, some people are calling motivated. And this is the background to a lot of our research on mentor matching. So one of the things that we've learned is that this work orientation, how you view your work, is critical to how people are going to get along for a mentoring relationship. So what we learned was that when people have an aligned work orientation in the mentoring relationship, the likelihood that relationship lasts for 6 months and is productive in quality is 4 times greater than when we match strictly based on years of experience, area of expertise, or status alone. So when we match people strictly on area of expertise, status, or years of experience, we have a much lower likelihood of mentorship lasting for 6 months and being productive and quality. But when we align work orientation, it allows for people to feel like their values and their why is much more connected. And that's where we can start seeing mutually beneficial relationship. So work orientation is key to successful mentoring relationships, because if somebody is strictly job oriented, let's say, they aren't motivated by additional credits or changing the world. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. They're just motivated by work-life balance and building a work scenario in which they can live the life they want to live outside of work. If somebody is strictly career-oriented, they aren't motivated by changing the world, and they aren't motivated by work-life balance, but they are motivated by additional credits and the opportunity to grow as a professional, and that's great as well. So when giving advice, or when potentially thinking about what would inspire this person, what might motivate this person, leveraging that insight into what motivates them for their work can help them drive certain actions that will help them accomplish the thing that they want to accomplish. And if somebody's strictly calling oriented, they aren't motivated by work-life balance or additional credits. They're motivated by the ability to make an impact, to make a difference. And so the point I'm making in all of this is that a one-size-fits-all mentality when it comes to mentoring anyone is not helpful for being a successful mentor. If you want to understand their work orientation, you can, once you understand their work orientation, you can cater your wisdom and questions in a way that follows what motivates them. So how can you help? So as John had mentioned, we are implementing the Delta Mu Delta Mentor program. And one way that you can help is to encourage your students and alumni to participate in the program. So everybody's gotten messages from John and headquarters and Jeff. But when it comes from someone like yourself, a local faculty advisor, it's so much more likely to stick. If a student or an alumnus hears about this opportunity from you, they're much more likely to want to participate because they know that you're supporting it, and they know that you are somebody that's helping, I guess, facilitate this program. Another way that you can help is posting a blurb on your university's website that this is an opportunity for students and alumni in Delta Mu Delta, and with the link to sign up. That could be really helpful because sometimes people don't see emails. Sometimes it goes to their spam folder. By having it on the website, it allows people to learn about it in multiple different areas. It also can encourage other prospective Delta Mu Delta students to get involved in, and maybe business students that are freshmen or sophomores to learn about that this is a really interesting opportunity for them to get a mentor as they get a little bit older and obviously get good grades, and they're invited to potentially be a member of Delta Mu Delta. This is just another benefit for them to take advantage of, something to look forward to. And then the third way is just to email students and alumni to inform them of this opportunity. So the last part is a little interactive fun part. Before we go into Q&A, or really what we can do is right now while we go into Q&A, what we can do is we can show you what your work orientation is. I would imagine now I've shared with you all a little bit about work orientation. You might be genuinely curious to know what work orientation, your work orientation might be. If you go to that link, you can actually take your work orientation assessment. It'll take you about maybe 1 to 2 minutes to complete. While we're asking questions, if you want to do it right now, you can share with us all your work orientation and let us know if you think it's pretty accurate. So that is essentially our presentation. I'd love to open up to some questions. I'm going to allow.
Can you type in questions on the chat feature?
Oh, yes, I can. I can see that there are questions already. Sweet. So let's go up to the first questions. Beverly asked to share your contact info. So it just looks like contact information here. I don't see any questions quite yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow everybody to unmute themselves if they'd like to. And then you can ask your questions.
Questions, anybody?
Garrett, I have a question. First of all, let me say your transparency is just awesome because it helped me get a chance to know who you are and what you bring to the table. I guess my question is, as we move into encouraging our students, are you willing to also meet with executives with our universities to talk about mentoring?
Absolutely, yes. If you have executives that would be interested in having a conversation with me, I'd love to have a conversation with them and have a chat and see if there are ways that we could work together or I could help them in any form or fashion. That would be amazing. I love that.
And could you share your contact information in the chat with us as well?
Yes.
I'll send that to everybody that registered for the
Okay.
seminars.
Perfect, John. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You know, one of the things that Garrett does this with corporations too. So it's not just a feature for us. He's a paid consultant to a number of corporations that wanted to adopt a mentoring program, saw the value of this. So do you want to say a little bit about that? What you do with corporations, Garrett?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we learned so much from working in the higher ed space that we started noticing that companies were interested in connecting their people together for mentoring relationships. And so we've taken what we learned in that work orientation research, and we've essentially applied it to companies so we could connect historically siloed departments. So for example, the accounting department with the sales department, or the finance department with the engineering department, departments that historically don't normally interact with each other. We can say, hey, you're both career oriented, or you're both job oriented, or you're both calling oriented. You're a whole lot more similar than you realize, and this allows them to bridge that gap between each other, so then we can build a much stronger bond between companies, and we can just build a greater level of connectivity between people working with each other, even within their own same teams. What we've observed is a lot of conversations are very superficial. So maybe it's about sports or family or fashion or weather. And what this mentoring relationship does is it allows people to be vulnerable and to learn about the obstacles that other people are facing, which we've observed has directly correlated to greater engagement levels at work, greater productivity at work, and people just enjoying their work a whole lot more. And then we also have an executive program where we'll work with CEOs and C-suite level executives, and we'll pair them with other executives outside of their company for mentorship so they can learn from somebody else, because we can recognize it can be kind of lonely at the top sometimes. But yeah, thanks for asking that, John. What other questions do you all have?
One of the things that I'll just make an observation, one of the things we had after the seminar last week, we had some emails about, can we run this for our students? So one of the things that we'll be considering in the next week or so is whether we can run this for our students, our members now. You know, we may just take this year's members and offer it to them. And I would think that we will get perhaps 100 of them, you know, online for this. So, but if you see anything on that, please be supportive of it as well, because it's really important that the faculty advisors support us in this. Any other questions from anybody?
I have one. I'm just curious about outcomes. I like the idea of this program a lot. What are some of your success? Your story is fantastic. What is the track record of, like, me as an alum working with a student? Can you give us some idea of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can just share with you maybe a few stories in terms of just, I guess, track record. One of the best stories that I can come to mind is a woman named Jasmine. She was at a university down in Florida, and she graduated with her undergraduate degree. She ended up not being able to find the job within her degree path that she wanted to achieve and accomplish, so she went to go get her MBA. And she got her MBA, but after getting her MBA, she was still struggling to land that role. And she was thinking to herself, like, oh my goodness, like, I've just taken all this debt on to get this MBA, and now I can't find the right role, and I can't find the right position. Now I've gotten my undergrad and my MBA, I've got a ton of debt. And through her mentoring relationship, she was actually able to land a full-time job doing the exact thing that she wants to do in her space that fits exactly what she's doing, and being able to earn the compensation that can allow her to pay off her debt. That's just one of many stories that are pretty typical for the mentoring relationships that occur through this mentor program. And so what we often see is just students seeing, it's almost like mentors see something in students that maybe the student didn't see in themselves. And mentors help bring that out of them. And our agendas, our program, what it really does is it helps facilitate those conversations. So we provide meeting agendas, and they're suggested meeting agendas. If a mentor and a student are just hitting it off, They don't need to follow the agenda. So if they're going about their way and it's going incredibly, that's awesome. But if they're maybe an introvert and they're thinking to themselves, I've got a little bit of anxiety about this upcoming conversation with my mentor, what should we talk about? We've got suggested meeting agendas that can help drive that conversation into a direction that leads to vulnerability and productivity. And that's what we see quite frequently, is just people being able to just open up and share the things that maybe they didn't think was normal or relevant to share, because so often those are the most relevant things, and that helps us make us feel like we're human and that we're justified and that we're able to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish.
And we have to remember that the Delta Mu Delta members are the cream of the crop coming out of our business schools, particularly in smaller colleges, more rural aspects sometimes. Many of them as mature students online, but they are the cream of the crop. And if we can match them up with, appropriate managers, it's more than possible that those managers will go to bat with their HR department, and when a job, or if there's an opening, then they'll get in and fill it. And that's always been the case with the students that I've had that have qualified with Delta Mu Delta, that positioning them for great careers is not difficult once they get to meet the right person.
And I just wanted to clarify one thing, John. It's not necessarily about having a mentor help that student land a job. That's not their role. Really, the biggest and most important thing that we are focused on is confidence. So students feeling confident to know that they deserve and are justified to be in this specific place. That's the biggest thing that we want to focus on, is to help students feel confident that they know that they're in the right spot, and this mentor helps uplift them and help show them that they can achieve the things that they want to achieve.
Can I ask a question, John? I noticed that our role as faculty advisors is that we're gonna encourage our students to reach out to Ambition in Motion. Is there a template, invite letter, and links provided in that invite letter that we can quickly post? I know at CSU Global, I have built Internet Global Connect, which is a means for our students to communicate and gather alumni and active students together and talk and get information. And individually in our school system, we have career coaching as well. So one of the things I'd like to do is to have you, Garrett, come and speak to CSU Global and find a way that our career coaching team might be able to partner with you so that the message isn't skewed, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I guess my big question is, do we have a template to invite students first?
Yes. So the answer is yes. And I've shared that with John, but we can send that to you to share with students with the link to obviously to sign up. Shortly after this.
Beverly, you've been a great supporter of Delta Mu Delta. We've been dealing with going backwards and forwards in communications with you for the last year or so. So, we want to help you in any way. I guess it's time for a quick plug for DMD Connect. We've just launched a new way for members of Delta Mu Delta to connect with each other. So do go online and encourage your alumni to go online and look at that. It's I think it's going to be a good way for people to interact. So are there any more questions? I'm cognizant that we're within 1 minute of 10 o'clock.
Yes,
trying to keep it. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question for Garrett. There are instances in which you want to sustain the mentor-mentee relationship, but there are cases in which some of your mentor either become self-independent, and therefore you lose communication. My question is, do you have any ideas to sustain that ongoing relationship, that ongoing mentorship Any ideas?
Yeah, so in our meeting agenda, in the final meeting agenda, we provide a suggestions on ways that the students and mentors can go about continuing their relationship over the winter for obviously fall semester and into the spring, and then obviously over the summer and into the fall for the spring semester. But yeah, we provide those in our agendas. We also in our workshops. So every semester we run 4 workshops, and during those workshops we provide different tips and insights on how students can go about making the most out of their mentoring relationship when we bring in guest speakers. But in our final, the 4th workshop, we provide suggestions and tips and guidance on how to stay in touch with their mentor over the course of the winter. We also, on their dashboard, there's a little tips and templates button. And if you click it, it shows templates for like LinkedIn. So suggested messages on how to connect with somebody on LinkedIn. Or if you want to ask your mentor, somebody else you've met, for like an introduction to somebody that they know, or like how to introduce yourself, it's a template that they could copy and paste. Or further down that tips and templates, there are tips on how to maintain that relationship even after the formal mentor program is over. So we provided a good bit of support on how students can maintain these relationships, because the ultimate goal is that we're able to help these students build a board of advisors. The goal is that every semester they can get a new mentor and build their own board of guidance and people that they can get insight from every single semester. So it's that they, not that they lose that relationship, but they grow and add more people to their mentor base.
Hey Garrett, this is
Thank you.
Hey Garrett, this is Frank Marshall.
Hey,
We're geographically dispersed on this call. Are your mentors also geographically dispersed? So like I'm in San Diego, are there people on the West Coast, or is it just, sort of virtually anywhere people are at?
Yeah, so when it comes to our matching criteria, the number one component we look at is work orientation. So that's what we found to be the number one component for successful mentor matching. The next criteria we're looking at is similar degree paths, as well as interesting career paths, and then current career paths for mentors and students respectively. And then we look at region. So region is our criteria for matching, but it's more like a tertiary criteria. So if, let's say, all the components line up and you're in San Diego and they're in San Diego, we'll match it together. But we're not going to make a bad match just because you're both close in proximity. And obviously with social distancing and COVID, we might be having Zoom calls for a little while. So it's, regionality has not been as big of a, or rather being in a local region has not been as big of a, I guess, component to this.
Hi, Garrett. I'm Lester Reams. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Wanted to find out, is there a specific criteria that you're looking for from new mentors? I know you might have mentioned it, but we just graduated students, and we have about 18 or 19 new members of Delta Mu Delta who now have their MBA. So if they were interested in becoming mentors, since they're so new, what are you looking for, and what, again, is the time commitment? Because I hope I'm not, you haven't mentioned it and I forgot, but what is the time commitment of the mentor, and what is the training involved with the mentor?
Yeah, so the time commitment as the mentor is about 6 hours over the course of the semester.
Okay.
So that includes 3 one-hour meetings. We also have 4 workshops over the course of the semester. So these are mentor workshops where I essentially run them live on YouTube, and where all the mentors can participate, ask questions, and obviously if they can attend it live, they can watch the recording. But essentially provides them with guidance on how they can go about building that strong mentor relationship with their student. And so we run 4 of them throughout the semester. So we have 1 in September, 2 in October, and then 1 in November. And it just gives them guidance on how to build the strong mentor relationship with their student, how to continue to grow that mentor relationship even after the semester is over, and then just tips and tactics and suggested questions that they could go about asking their student about building that strong bond. So all the things that we talked about today, so from vulnerability to asking great questions to understanding their work orientation, all those things we're covering in our workshops, and we're teaching mentors how to go about leveraging that information. So leveraging their knowledge of their students' work orientation to ask them the right questions, or providing suggested questions to ask them to help them find balance or identify a vision or find fulfillment in their career path. We provide that guidance to the mentors throughout the semester. So yeah.
Okay,
Garrett,
so
hi. Sorry.
Oh no, with that in mind, do you have a template for invitation of new mentors that distribute out to our graduates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right out the yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, John has that as well. We'll be able to we'll be sure to have John send that to you and send it to everybody to encourage students and alumni to participate. We also have an alumni mentee program for any alumnus that might be interested in getting a mentor, him or herself. Maybe they're in a
Yes.
career transition. Maybe they were recently furloughed. Maybe they're going through something right now and they're interested in potentially making a transition. We do have a program for them as well.
Okay, so definitely send that out. Perfect.
Yeah, we will get that to you, Lester.
Garrett, this is Dion Roundtree. I just wanted to find out what kind of training did you have to participate in to do this program? Is there a formal training that you went through?
For me, I built it from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't go through any formal training. I just facilitated thousands of mentoring relationships and just learned a lot from doing it. But I've been doing this for about 10 years. And yeah, a lot of trial, a lot of error. We partnered with industrial organizational psychologists. So we've got Kyle Bradley at Kansas State University and as Jake Gorey at Penn State University. And they are research partners where they help us come up with our assessments, help us analyze the data that we're collecting, help us research engagement scores and seeing what's working, what's not working. So one thing that's fascinating that we've learned is the agendas. What's interesting is when it comes to work orientation, the closer your work orientation is, the less of a need for agendas there are. So essentially, participants have found that the agendas were less helpful when their work orientation was aligned, which makes sense because they naturally are hitting it off. But when their work orientations are further away, the agendas have been very helpful based on feedback that we've collected. And there are other key interesting data endpoints that we found. So another thing we found from a corporate side was like, if you paired two disengaged employees together for mentorship, even if their work orientation is aligned, engagement is going to decrease, which might seem obvious. But when you pair a highly engaged employee with a disengaged employee and work orientation aligns, engagement increases for both people. Now, the more fascinating thing that blew my mind was that the majority of disengaged employees that participate in their corporate mentor program are senior leaders. That was insane. See, what was happening is that they were participating because they're a senior leader, thinking that I need to be a mentor because I'm a senior leader. But what I know is that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young employee who's highly engaged at work, she's matched with this senior leader, and he thinks he's the mentor. I know she's driving this relationship. In 6 months, their engagement's going to be higher because of her.
Got it. Well, can I share my work orientation? I did the assessment. I thought it was awesome. So it says firmly career and calling oriented.
Nice.
It says you're somebody that is motivated by both personal and professional mission, being in alignment and making advancements in your career. You also understand the value of work-life balance, but that is not the main factor that drives you at work. If your work didn't allow you to achieve professional growth and have meaning to you, you wouldn't be doing it. In terms of mentorship, you are inherently more likely to give advice around achieving professional growth and identifying how your personal mission can align with your work mission, then give advice around achieving work-life balance. Your advice and overall mentorship would resonate significantly better with other people who are career-oriented or calling-oriented than people who are job-oriented. So I love this tool and this assessment. Is there a way, because I do leadership coaching and training and speaking in addition to being a business professor and director, is there a way to partner with you in any kind of way to provide this to other individuals outside of Delta Mu Delta?
Yeah, that link that I showed you is free. You can use that for anybody you work with. For anybody who is, if you're a faculty advisor, if you're thinking like, I'd love to have a student, even if he or she's not in Delta Mu Delta, use the link. I mean, we want to provide our research to as many people as we can. And so, yes, please feel free to use it. It's totally free for you to use. And yeah, so essentially your work orientation is right here on the bottom of this triangle.
Exactly.
So
yeah, that's my square. That's my triangle.
Do you put the link back up, Garrett, on that last slide? Yeah, right.
Thanks, Garrett. I'm going to use it. I do the same as the Deanne just mentioned. So I'm going to be using it as well. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We can go on asking a few more questions if anybody would like to. I'm cognizant of people's time. I think it's been a really, really active discussion after this. And I did ask Garrett to keep the presentation brief because I always find Q&A brings out far more than the presentation did in many ways. So great questions. I can see that a lot of you want to get yourselves and your Delta Mu Delta members involved in this, and I think we'll be moving ahead with this. I'll share with you that to get into Garrett's program, the Ambition, they need to register before September the 15th, right, Garrett?
That's correct.
So, you know, either send them to his site to register, and there is a $50 deposit which he returns if they successfully complete the program. If they don't complete the program, he feels that they should keep the deposit because they didn't fulfill their obligation. So that's a big motivator to get people to finish the program. And so we don't say that the program is free. It is free if you complete it successfully. And we hope that we're going to have hundreds of Delta Mu Delta members involved in this program, you know, in the fall semester. And it's going to be a difficult time for us all, as we know. Anything else you would like to say, Garrett?
No, I think I think you did a great job of conveying everything. And I think just to add on that $50 deposit, I mean, all it is just a motivator. So then sometimes students can blow off their mentor or, you know, sign up for something and not follow through on it. We don't want this to be something like that. And so this just allows them to have a little skin in the game. And when they complete the program successfully at the end of the semester, we just return the money right back to their credit card.
There is no free lunch, you know. You either have to work or provide your information, but thank you all for being so active in the discussion. Thank you for all for signing up for this seminar. We are planning to be offering another at least 3 or 4 through the fall on different topics. And certainly we may return to one of those being mentoring again for students this time, or not for students, but for our members. So, okay. Thank you all for your support of Delta Mu Delta and today's activity. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
Thank you, John.
Great session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.